Hi guys, welcome back to our channel for Bling Your Things. My name is Shannon and today we're going to show you how to rhinestone a tumbler using a scatter pattern, also doing an ombre design. We are going to be using both Fusion Tack adhesive and Bob Smith Slow Cure 30-minute epoxy. So we've already prepped our tumbler by sanding using a nail file, so you can see that it's scuffed up. And then we're going to go ahead and clean off any remaining dust from sanding. When you do sand, you want to do that off your work surface so that you're not getting any dust into your workstation or into your rhinestones. Try to keep them as clean as possible. So we're just going to give this a good clean. Another reason that we use the alcohol to clean after we sand is because when we are using things like epoxy and some glues, water can prevent them from curing. So some cleaners have water in them, and you don't want to get through working on your whole tumbler or your whole project only to find out that your epoxy or your adhesive is not curing, because when you prepped, you used something that had water in it and the water is preventing it from curing completely. So the stones that we're going to be using are from one of our Flatback kits. The kit comes with 3 different colors. This one has Crystal, Siam, and Amethyst in both size SS16 and SS20. Since we're going to be doing the scatter pattern, we're going to also be using size SS10, which is not included in the kit. So to go ahead and get started, we're going to start with the Fusion Tack. The Fusion Tack is a white glue. It does dry clear. It's good for things like fabric, glass, leather, plastic, and wood. We're going to use this to do our baseline because it dries faster. Then we're also going to use the Slow Cure Epoxy to do the entire design. And then we're going to be mixing in mica powder to help the background blend in with our stone color. We're going to be using the Baltic Day mica powder in color Deep Crimson. I got the mica powder in these little vials because I like these better because I can just sprinkle out what I need, and they're not in the little packets. I'm not having to worry about spilling that packet. I don't have to worry about storing the rest of it that I don't use, and this little container is very convenient for what I'm doing. So I will set these aside for right now. And then I've already pre-filled my syringe. I'm going to use a 5 milliliter syringe with a 20 gauge blunt tip needle. I've already pre-filled the syringe with some glue. So then I like to start at the bottom and then work my way up. So I'm going to start here and get my baseline in first. So I'm just going to apply, oops, I squeezed that way too much. I'm just going to apply a line here to get my first row started. You don't want to use a whole lot of glue because you don't want the glue oozing out over the sides of the stone and potentially clouding the color of your rhinestones. And then always keep your tips clean. So even though I was using this to push around the glue, always use something to wipe it off when you're done. So then I'm gonna start this row with size SS16. Again, these are the Bling Your Things rhinestones, the diamond cut flatbacks. I'm going to be using the size SS16, SS20, and SS10. So I'm going to place this first row of SS16s. And the reason I'm using the SuperTite Fusion Tack on this first row is because the glue does dry faster than the epoxy, and I can get my baseline set and then continue to work around. I don't have to wait 10-15 minutes for my first row to dry before I can start working. So then after I get that section placed, I'm going to go back and straighten out all my stones. Your base row is one of the most important things of your design. If you don't get this line straight, especially when you're doing like a honeycomb pattern, the whole rest of your design is going to be off. You'll find that things won't line up. You'll have crooked lines, or you'll come to spaces where stones aren't fitting like they used to. So for this, I'm just using the end of my tip to go back and push the ends to make sure that they're all in the same exact place. So that looks good, and I will keep going. Got glue on the end when I was moving them around. So you want to make sure that you keep the tip of your pickup tools clean as well. If you get glue or something else on the end, your stones will start sticking and you'll be picking them back up. Let's see. Sometimes, depending upon the tumbler that you're using, you can put the surface down on another flat surface and just push them down to get them all even, but the lip on this is a little too high up to do that. So then I'm just going to continue this all the way around. I'll speed up the video so that you don't have, so that this doesn't take forever. Doing the ombre designs, these are great if you're doing something like with your school colors, team colors, pretty much whatever you'd like. You can do more than 2 colors. I have several that I've done with 3 or 4. Keep in mind, the closer the colors are together, the less noticeable the ombre design is. Alright, now that we have our base row completed, you can see that all of the stones are, our baseline is straight. We are going to start the design, and we're going to be using the epoxy for the rest of the cup. So I'm going to mix my epoxy. I just use like little scrap pieces of paper from like other projects that I was doing. The epoxy is a 1-to-1 mixture, so I like to put my resin down first. I'm just going to use a pea-size amount of the resin and the hardener. And then I'm also going to mix in my mica powder. So you just need a little bit. And then I'm going to use a toothpick to mix. You just want to make sure that you're mixing in all the powder and that your hardener and the resin are getting mixed well. I like using this Baltic Day mica powder because it has like a shimmer to it, so it blends in more with the rhinestones. And with the epoxy, even though it is a 30-minute epoxy, you only get about 10 to 15 minutes of work time before it starts to harden and you're not able to work with it anymore. So then once I got it mixed, I'm going to apply in a small area. And it is somewhat self-leveling, so it'll kind of fill in where it needs to. But you don't need a whole lot. You don't want to glop it on. So one thing I wanted to mention about the Bob Smith Slow Cure Epoxy, this 30-minute epoxy is recommended for woods, glass and metal, fiberglass, hard plastics, and white foams. And it says that it has best performance on glass and metals and white foams. They do recommend for the best bond to apply to clean, textured surfaces that are smooth and non-porous. So the surface should be roughened up and coarse using sandpaper to improve your adhesion, and then use acetone or isopropyl rubbing alcohol to clean the surface. And then it also says that it has full cure in 6 to 8 hours. So then I'll just start applying my rhinestones. As I'm doing a scatter pattern, I'm just going to lay them in a random order. And for my work surface, I'm just using a mouse pad here. The texture of the mouse pad does help flip the rhinestones so that they're facing up. And when you first start working with the epoxy, it is rather liquid. So I just work in sections because the rhinestones will shift around. So you just want to be cognizant of, as you're working, did any shifting happen? Are your rhinestones still where you wanted them to be? We will also post a link to all the products used in today's video in the description down below. We hope you find this video helpful. We'd love it if you could give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so that you are notified of new tutorial videos. So I really like using the scatter pattern design because for me it goes faster. There's no particular order that you need to put the rhinestones in. You can put them where you think they look good. And because we're using the mica powder in with the epoxy, it helps color the background so that our stones are going to blend in and you're not going to see so much of the metal surface color. So after I get finished working that section, I'll kind of just go back and see if any stones have shifted and make any adjustments as needed, which that looks pretty good. Sometimes it's helpful if you hold your cup down so that then gravity will help to push all the stones towards the bottom of the cup. Then I'm going to continue over to the next section. And this will probably be the last time that I can use this batch of epoxy that I've mixed up, because it does start to harden. And again, you only, even though it's 30 minutes, you only have about 10 to 15 minutes of work time. Since the epoxy is so liquid when you first start working with it, after you finish your section, you want to go back and make sure that you don't have any stones that shifted underneath one or lifted up one that you placed in like a prior row. If you start pushing the stones around, sometimes you'll have one that like lifts, and then you'll have like these cliffhangers. Now that I have about a quarter of the tumbler completed in Siam, I'm going to start sprinkling in the second color to start the ombre pattern, which in this tumbler is going to be the Bling Your Things diamond cut flatbacks in the color Crystal. I like to start mixing in a few of the smaller size stones like the SS10 and SS16 of the second color first. Then I gradually add in more and more of the crystal and less of the Siam as I work towards the top. To me, this makes it look more natural and more blended. I do this so that the transition appears more gradual and I don't end up with a hard straight transition line in the center. Then at the center, I will start using the opposite color in some of the bigger sizes, like the SS20 and SS16, then work down to ending with the SS16s and SS10s, the closer I get to the top. Then at the top of the tumbler, I will do the same as I did at the beginning, and my last row will all be size SS16 and Crystal. I do this because I feel that outlining the base row looks more clean when it's finished. Then I will continue using that same process around the whole tumbler, sprinkling in just a few of the crystal stones around this whole section. Now that I'm starting on the middle section, I'm going to be placing the crystal in the Siam stones in a ratio of about 1:1. So 1 crystal stone for every 1 Siam stone. This starts really seeing the ombre pattern. And then normally I would just finish that pattern all the way around the whole cup. But for purposes of this video,
I will just finish doing the transition all the way to the top of the tumbler so that you can start to see what the finished tumbler will look like. And I'm also finishing off my top row the same as the base row using all SS16s to give it a more finished look. We have this last section here to complete. Then altogether, it took us about a total of 5 hours to complete the tumbler from start to finish. We will let it sit overnight to cure, then wash with soap and water. Altogether, we used about a total of 30 gross of the Bling Your Things diamond cut flatbacks. There's about 7 gross each of the Crystal and Siam in size SS10, about 5 gross each of the SS16, and 3 gross each of the SS20. For our next video, we are working on rhinestoning some home decor items. We hope you found this video helpful. If you haven't already, we'd love it if you could give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you're notified of new and helpful videos. You can also find additional tips and tricks on our website, blingyourthings.com. A link will be provided below. Thanks for watching. My name is Shannon, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, I hope the rest of your week is amazing.